Good morning.
Good morning.
It is an honor. We think about inventions and what they've done to the world, and a lot of things come to mind, light bulbs and such, and they change the world. And then we've got inventions that change industries, microwave ovens and smartphones. And we look at our propeller industry, and we've got the modern propeller invented in 1833. John Patch in the harbor in the Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Go Canada. And it was a fan propeller cranked by hand with a prop shaft, and he went across the harbor and started an industry that hasn't changed dramatically in an awful lot of years. And we've got a new invention, the Sharrow propeller, and we've got the inventor here today to talk to us. And we're the leading edge of the industry, the front line, if you will, and got a lot to learn. So it's my pleasure to introduce Greg Sharrow and learn all about his invention and his company and his progress. Thanks.
Thank you for that introduction, Brian, and thank you all for having me. When Brian called me and asked me if I would be interested in coming and speaking to all of you, I immediately said yes. And so it was important for me to have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about the background of Sharrow Marine and our technology, and also give you a little bit of insight into how the propeller works and what it does differently than a standard prop. So this was filmed at the University of Michigan's hydrodynamic facility. And what you're about to see is it's 1 second of time that is slowed down to 1 minute. And you're going to notice that there are very pronounced tip vortices in the standard propeller, and you can see that there is virtually no tip vortice, no standard tip vortice for the Sharrow propeller. Another thing to pay attention to is these propellers are the exact same diameter, they're the exact same pitch, and they're the exact same blade area. And they're both rotating at the exact same RPM. And they're all going through the water at the exact same speed, meters per second. And you will notice that the Sharrow prop is bringing in more dye. It is sucking in more fluid than the standard propeller. Normal propellers look at the water in front of the propeller. Our propellers look at the water in front of the propeller, and we also look at the water on the sides. So as we're going through the water, we're not just vacuuming in the water from the front, kicking out of the back. We're sucking in everything like a black hole and then funneling everything through the back. So you can clearly see the tip vortice on the standard propeller. There's an arrow there, and there is no traditional tip vortice with the Sharrow prop. This leads to a dramatic reduction in sound. Like I said earlier, people think that all the noise is coming from the outboard, but a lot of it is coming from the tip vortices in the propeller itself. And when people try our props for the first time, one of the things that everybody remarks on is, wow, it's so quiet. If we were on a boat together with one of our props and we were going 30 miles an hour, I could talk to you like this, and we could have a conversation without elevating our voice. And that, I think, is one of the greatest benefits for the recreational industry. It makes it safer because you can hear what's going on, and it reduces fatigue on the boat. And I'm going to show you a clip of our props on a triple Yamaha 300 on a Contender 35 ST, going 40 miles an hour. The sound reduction of our props is dramatic. That roar isn't the motor, it's actually the tip vortices. So whenever we engage a customer, after they are done asking questions about how it was invented, they want to know more about why it does what it does and what is really different between a standard prop and ours. We've talked about the tip vortices and tip vortice cavitation. Another attribute of our prop is it just doesn't slip like a standard prop. Because it holds that water in, it doesn't let go of the water very easily. The water ends up being kicked out the back and not slipping off the tips the way a standard prop would. So we move a boat forward further with every rotation than a standard prop does with equivalent pitch. We call our actual pitch our true advance, as a way to try to educate customers as to what the difference is between our props and standard props. Most people think that the props slip around 10%, somewhere in that range, 10 to 15. The actual slip, the difference between the pitch on the box and how far forward that prop actually goes with a standard prop versus ours is much more dramatic. And we're going to show some examples of that and how our prop helps with not slipping. In the spot where people do operate their boats, in the mid-range, the standard propeller is slipping 61%, 58%, 73%. We hit our maximum advance rate as soon as we get up out of the hole and on plane. You can see that our advance rate hits for this particular situation around 81% of our pitch. We're hitting that right out of the hole as soon as you're up on plane going 25 miles an hour. And what that looks like in terms of a speed versus RPM graph is you can see here, everyone knows, we all talk about getting out of the hole. This is a graphical representation of the hole. This is what the red line that you see is what we see in every boat that we've ever tested, and we've tested hundreds and hundreds of boats at this point. We see this all the time. You're either on plane or you're not with a standard prop. And if you're not on plane, you're going around like up to 10 miles an hour, and then you try to get out of the hole, and then you finally get out of the hole, and when you're out of the hole, you're going around 4,000 RPMs, you're going 30, 35 miles an hour, and you have to maintain that in order to stay out of the hole, otherwise you fall right back into it. Each one of our propellers has more than double the amount of vertical force generated in the standard propeller. So if you have a triple rig, it's like there's a piano worth of weight pushing up the stern of the boat. So when our props push the boat out of the water, instead of it going bow high and climbing out of the whole boat just kind of raises up like it's on an elevator. And you can see here represented every 500 RPMs, we're getting another 5 miles an hour. Standard propeller between 2,500 RPMs and 3,000 RPMs gained 1 mile an hour. For this application, we were asked to just show up with 17-inch pitch props. That's it, one set, and put them on this boat and see what it could do with this fisherman to really test what our out-of-the-box props could do that were not optimized. We have a series we designed for Yamaha, 22 different pitches, and it's hot swappable with their Saltwater Series 2 series. So Yamaha asked us to come out to Seattle and spend some time with somebody who they knew very well, one of their pro fishermen, who was very happy with his boat and very, very happy with the performance of the Yamaha propellers that he had. And the goal of this experiment was to see if this guy has something that he considers to be a well-tuned rig that he uses, chews through $10,000, or $20,000 worth of fuel a year. He fishes every day that he can. He's fishing in 3 continents. And this is what we saw. At his cruising condition, we're saving him 20% in fuel at 30 miles an hour. And if you compare the miles per gallon here to RPM, we're on top all the way up until 4,500 RPMs. And then this is an example of what that means for him in terms of range. And with our props, he's going to be going 71 miles further on a tank of gas at a specific RPM. And at 4,000 RPMs with our props, where they start to line up in terms of C's versus RPM, we're going to get to the destination in the same amount of time. But with our props, you can go 4,000 RPMs instead of 4,500. You can go 4,000 RPMs, and he can get to his destination 2 hours and 58 minutes faster. Exact same RPM, but because we're going so much faster, he's going to get there a lot faster and save 30% of fuel while he's doing it. So our customers are now, there's a learning experience when you get a Sharrow prop and you put it on. A lot of people just automatically, boom, they go to 4,200 because that's where they drive their boat. And they notice they're going a lot faster there, but then they start to learn, oh, I can back down. I can go 3,200 RPMs. I can go 3,300 RPMs and go the same speed that I was going before at 4,000 RPMs. So the ride is quieter, smoother, less vibration, and saving 30% of fuel while doing it. And this is an example of the propeller efficiency of our props versus standard ones. It took 4,500 RPMs to get this big, heavy, this is a big, heavy boat. And it took 4,500 RPMs to get them out of plane and out of the hole. We do that 1,000 RPMs lower. And then here's another example of advance rate in inches, where we see, and these are the numbers you see again and again and again, at 3,500 and 4,000, 2,500, 3,000 RPMs, we see numbers like 56, 100, 95. And here again, you see that belly, you see that red line, that hole that Tom Nelson has to climb out of every single time he's on that boat. He has two operating conditions, on plane or not. We've created a new operating condition. I call it second gear. Before, you've got first gear and third, you're on plane or not. Now boaters have a whole new operating range. They can run their boats at 25 miles an hour in rough sea conditions with following seas and stay on plane and track better. The fact that we don't slip, in addition to the fact that we don't have tip vortices, gives us unmatched efficiency, greater range, superior fuel economy, increased load capacities, faster speeds. Sometimes we see very commonly 10 miles an hour, sometimes double the amount of speed in the mid-range RPMs. Almost all the time. We see like 50, 60, 80, 90, 110% faster. Doesn't matter what hull it is, if it's a 50-foot catamaran or a small little single outboard or a 65-foot yacht. We see this incredible ability for our technology to push a boat forward and not slip.